In a world full of darkness, it's time to let the light shine bright. This is Strength to Overcome, where faith and action help us grow through adversity. G'day everyone, this is Strength to Overcome, episode 40, and for those of you that are watching, you will notice that it is just me on the screen, and there's some major significance to episode 40 and the delay between episode 39 and 40 here that we're going to talk a little bit about, and what does it mean, and what does it mean for Strength to Overcome, what does it mean for the goal of helping a lot of people out there, and the journey that it's taken to even be here doing this. And so after this small delay between these last two episodes, we're going to unpack that a little bit and talk about what happened, what does it mean, and what does it look like moving forward. And I'll be honest with you, it is not lost on me here that the significance of this episode and doing it on my own is part of this journey. You know, I started this back in April of 2025 with my co-host Ryan, and we had a terrific run there. And then towards the end of the 39 episodes, we included Joe, who was a valuable asset to the content and the ability to host guests and really dive in on some really cool topics. And so for it to kind of get to that 39th episode and then run its course for a number of reasons, there was this hole of where does this podcast go? And of course, episodes 37, 38, 39, I think we were digging in a little bit about accountability and what does that look like. And it wasn't lost on me that shortly after the filming of 39, we had some creative differences, as they like to say, right? Where are we taking this? What does it look like? Who are we going to have on the show and things like that? And so it was not lost on me that right after we have these accountability episodes, we really had to drop off on that accountability. We had this concept where we shared our goals, our dreams, our hopes, where we're struggling, what we could maybe put into place to help overcome those things. And the deal and the agreement was that we would hold ourselves accountable, we'll hold each other accountable, we would put ourselves out there so that the audience could hold us accountable. And so during that gap between episode 39 being filmed and today's episode, I really wrestled with what does that look like when all of a sudden that accountability drops off? Where are you really turning to for that accountability? If you've put your faith in man or woman or friend, it doesn't really matter, but you've put your faith in someone else other than promises that you make to yourself, or even a higher power that you've promised, hey, you know what, this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to follow through. And of course, quite often in our life, we make these promises to ourselves or to God or a higher power, Yahweh or Yahuwah. There's a lot of different people want to argue about that, but at the end of the day, you're making a promise to a creator, someone that you believe contributed to having you here, and the circumstances of you being born weren't by accident. You're here for a reason, you're here for a purpose. And so we often make those promises to that power, however you understand that to be. So what does it look like when you've got this system that you feel is going to keep you inside the gates that you've promised yourself you would or promised others you would, and then all of a sudden the gates lift open or there's no shepherd, right? What does that look like? And so during the time between episode 39 and today's recording, I've really wrestled with what does that look like. And I found myself going through these waves of emotion, trying to understand why did this happen and why did it particularly happen right before shooting episode 40. And so being raised in the scriptures, I've always known the significance of 40. It's a time of reflection. Often in scripture, it's a time of being pulled out from your circumstance and separated. It's a time of testing, refinement. It's quite often a time of loneliness. It's a time of challenge. It's certainly not something that you, generally speaking, enjoy. I think there's so many times throughout scripture where you've got these concepts that we brush over, but then to think of yourself actually in those moments would be really, really challenging. And of course, early on in this series, this podcast, I went into a deep dive on the 40-day fast that I did, where I drank nothing but water to really seek clarity on where my life was, to try and shed myself of some things that I needed to let go of. And here I am, over a decade later, still working on it. So to run into this roadblock at episode 40 has made me sad at times. It's made me excited. It's made me apprehensive. It's made me feel like perhaps Strength to Overcome had run its course. I had a couple of people that follow the podcast, and they said, well, you've at least got to do episode 40 because they understand the significance of it. So it's taken me some time to really reflect on where I'm at, what does it mean, and do I even want to do an episode 40? Do I want to do episode 41? Does there live a space out there for episode 200 or 1,000? What does this look like? Do I change the concept? Do I run with it the way it's been? Do I do it myself? Do I continue with hosts? And I really spent a lot of time in prayer, meditation, reflection. And during that time, I found myself really reflecting back onto some of the more challenging and darker times of my life, where I've definitely felt alone. And as I look back on those times in my life, there's this sense of joy that comes with it. Because during the darkest times of my past, I've also found that they have been the catalyst for enormous growth right afterwards. So I've lent into this concept of making sure I do episode 40. I've decided to do it on my own because I feel like the 40 is significant to me. Now, what does it mean moving forward? I don't know. I don't need to know. It doesn't really matter. But I do want to share with those out there, because this podcast was always driven towards those that want to overcome. And during this time of feeling alone or isolated, losing my accountability and having to dig in on, do I really want to achieve the things that I've said? Do I really need others helping me achieve that? Or is that something that's been given to me from the Almighty Creator? So when I look back on all the darkest times of my life, I realize that there were always a couple of people in there that were supporting me through it. I've talked at length about my time in Northern California, where I was just wrapping up my 40-day fast, and had two individuals that really understood what I was going through and just spent time with me, either on the phone or in person. And that carried me through. But for the times that I was alone, the days and weeks and months that I was feeling very isolated, they were the times that the Almighty Righteous Creator really lent in on me. He really pushed me to self-reflect, let go of the things that I was holding on to. The baggage that I was carrying was no longer mine. And it wasn't even during those times that I realized that. It was always afterwards, when I was able to look back and find that during those times, that's when He really did speak to me. And so there's a couple of times I have wanted to quit on this. There's a couple of times I've wanted to go in a couple of different directions, and each time the Almighty has put a roadblock in. I had a conversation with a very close friend of mine just a couple of days ago about this, and it was during the end of that conversation that it just hit me like a ton of bricks. The direction that I thought I wanted to take this podcast wasn't necessarily the direction that the Almighty wanted me to take it. And so there were some roadblocks that were thrown up in front of me. And instead of pushing through and focusing on what I wanted to achieve and what I wanted to put out there, I felt this sense of peace. I felt this wave of excitement for episode 40. And what does it look like beyond? That's up to the Almighty to put together for me and help me understand, could this be the completion of this podcast? Could it be just the beginning? We'll leave that up to him to decide. But I wanted to share with you guys and women out there that are listening, when you're down, when you're out, when maybe a best friend or a spouse or even a group of people, a church group, it could be some friends that you've got where you were tight and something happens, right? That changes. It's no longer what it used to be. Where do you go with that? What do you do? What does it look like? Were you leaning on them? Were you relying on them? Did you have the real strength that you need to persevere through the tough times through those people, or was it from within? Was it from the Almighty? I'm encouraging you today to really stop, pause, and reflect. Because at the end of the day, if you've made promises to yourself and you don't keep them, you're letting yourself down. If you've made promises to the Creator or whoever it is that you believe in and haven't followed through, who are you really letting down? And I think it's important to make sure that you are grounded. You have roots that are buried deep into the earth. Your soul is grounded in what you will and will not tolerate. It's grounded in where you believe your journey and your path needs to go, so that no matter what happens around you, you have that strength to overcome. You have that ability to lean in on the promises you've made to yourself and to the Creator, that you will press through regardless. And I think that quite often we forget that when you look at Scripture, the people that really had a mission struggled for a lot of it. But they lent in on the Creator. They lent in on who put us in that position in the first place. Because when we allow ourselves to get caught up in the advice and counsel of those around us, sometimes it's good, but if that falls away and you don't have that, then what do you lean on? So today I want to share a couple of stories, and I think a lot of you have probably heard these things, but I think it's important to talk about them again and just make sure we understand that during these toughest times of our lives, when all hope seems to be falling away, when the people around us seem to be letting us down, or we're letting them down, or whatever it looks like, things aren't unfolding the way you thought they would, to make sure that we're leaning in on the right things. We are spending time in prayer and meditation and self-reflection. And quite often, and I've talked about this in a lot of episodes, look in the mirror. The things that are happening around you, the people that are closest to you, they are a reflection of yourself. What you see in them that you don't like, what you struggle with, that bothers you, is a reflection. We are given community to help us refine through our own understanding the things that we need to be working on within ourselves. And to let go of trying to change everyone around us to fit into our agenda or our hopes, our dreams. Not everyone's meant to be in your life forever. It's sad when you move on. I've had so many people in my life where I feel like I would have been their best friend or vice versa till the day that I died. And yet years later I look back and I reflect on those times and they were amazing, but it could have been years now since I even spoke with them or even thought of them. And that's okay, because I'm grounded in something deeper. My roots are further down and I'm always looking up. It's okay to go through tough times, but what do you do when you really feel like there is no way out, or you don't feel grounded? You have this tough time, things fall away, something changes, a relationship, a concept, a job, a future, something completely unravels in your hands, and you don't know where to go. It's okay. You are right where you are meant to be. It doesn't mean you have to enjoy it. It doesn't mean you have to stay in it forever. I think I ran into a concept the other day that reminded me, nothing is permanent. But lean into what you're going through. The challenges that come to us are generally gifts. We look at them as awful events. We look at them as, why did this happen to me? I can't believe this is not going the way I thought it would. I've put so much work into this. Why is it going this direction? I don't understand. It's not fair. In all reality, what you're going through is a gift. It's refinement. We can only have growth through that refinement. So as dark as it seems right now, as low as you might feel, you are not alone. He may put people in your life for a season. Doesn't mean that they have to disappear forever, but that relationship or that concept or whatever you're working on together may be for just that time in your life. It may not be forever. And sometimes it is. But be okay with the Almighty leading you when you don't know where to go. Be okay with silence. Be okay with sitting at the park with your feet in the ground and the sun on your face, reflecting, listening in complete silence. Be okay with leaving your phone at home and going for a walk. Stop Googling for your answers and sit in silence and listen. It may not be that you hear a voice. It may not be that there's a sign. But quite often He will speak to you when we make the time. So don't just do it once and then think you've got it. Make it a practice. Make it a habit. Make it something that you do, because during this time of isolation or struggle or whatever it is that you feel isolated in, that's the time to grow. It's the time to dig your heels in on understanding who you are. Do the work on yourself. Ask the Almighty to show you who you are and where you need to go. Ask Him specifically for understanding on why this challenge that we want to understand as a gift is happening. Because the longer we think about it as a challenge that's not fair, or it's not right, or it wasn't meant to happen, the longer that is going to continue to plague you or challenge you. It's going to keep slapping you upside the head until you realize that what's happening to you is a gift. When we can lean in on it and understand that it is a gift from the Almighty Creator that's trying to lead us to a different place, a better place. I'm not saying it's going to go away quickly, but you'll be able to turn your sadness or your misery or your frustration into joy, into excitement, into anticipation of, wow, something good is coming. When I lean into it and I trust that it's from the above. You know, I think quite often sometimes we forget this concept, and it's something that we've all probably heard a lot, and for those that probably haven't, I'll repeat it right here. It's called Footprints in the Sand. One night I dreamed a dream. As I was walking along the beach with my Lord, across the dark sky flashed scenes from my life. For each scene I noticed 2 sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to me and one to my Lord. After the last scene of my life flashed before me, I looked back at the footprints in the sand. I noticed that at many times along the path of my life, especially at the very lowest and saddest times, there was only 1 set of footprints. This really troubled me, so I asked the Lord about it. Lord, you said once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I noticed that during the saddest and most troublesome times of my life, there was only 1 set of footprints. I don't understand why. When I needed you the most, you would leave me. He whispered, my precious child, I love you and will never leave you. Never ever during your trials and testings. When you saw only 1 set of footprints, it was then that I carried you. so often we rely on those around us, and that's okay. It's good to have people in our corner. It's good to have people that we trust. It's good to have people that can lean in and give us a word of encouragement. But quite often at times that's not there. And so I want to encourage you to just wait. Push on through. Don't quit. The answer is not always going to get delivered to you. You may never get the answer as to why you went through it. It may be something that happens outside of your understanding. But quite often the answer will be revealed to you when we trust. When we want to grab hold of the reins and do it our way, maybe things don't unfold the way the Almighty wanted, and we get in the way and we mess things up, and we feel like we're digging a deeper hole, and that can quite often happen too. But trust, just wait. And so as I sit here and I do episode 40 on my own, and the very concept of you are not alone as I sit here and do episode 40 solo brings so much joy and excitement to me, because I understand that through this process there's going to be something on the other side that's going to be even more exciting. There will be people in my life, there will be encouragement, there will be some level of support. The Almighty always brings that to us. And so as I wrap things up here, I just want to remind you that it's okay to be alone, it's okay to be isolated at times, but use that time wisely. Don't self-destruct. Don't lean into the things that maybe got you there in the first place. Believe that what you're going through is for the right reasons, and lean into Him and trust and pray. Meditate. Look in the mirror. Then I believe the answers can come to you when we let go of what our agenda is and we trust in what His agenda is. And I do believe that He will put people in your life at the right times to help you through it. And that's what Strength to Overcome is about. I could certainly have had all these thoughts to myself. I could certainly have gone through this process and had this realization and gotten on with my life and had a huge level of excitement to understand and to make sure that I'm always leaning on the Almighty and the promises that I've made to myself first and foremost before I worry about having a community around me. But I wanted to give this episode back. I wanted to make sure that I spoke on it. And so yes, there is this level of community and accountability with others that is important. But don't make that your basis. Don't make that your root system. Because mankind, unfortunately, is broken and we don't always get it right. But the Almighty always has a plan. He always gets it right. And He will put the right people in place at the right time. So I want to finish with a story that I spoke about a long time ago. I can't even remember what episode it was. But it's always stuck with me, and it's from the movie, I apologize, it's the TV series West Wing. I remember watching this with a buddy of mine, and we just laughed when we saw it, because it meant so much to us at the time, but it actually means a lot more to me now when I look back, especially through this process of Strength to Overcome in this podcast. The story goes like this. This guy's walking down the street when he falls in a hole. The walls are so steep he cannot get out. A doctor passes by and the guy shouts up, "Hey you, can you help me out?" The doctor writes a prescription, throws it down in the hole and moves on. Then a priest comes along and the guy shouts up, "Father, I'm down in this hole. Can you help me out?" The priest writes out a prayer, throws it down in the hole and moves on. Then a friend walks by. "Hey Joe, it's me. Can you help me out?" And the friend jumps in the hole. Our guy says, "Are you stupid? Now we're both down here." The friend says, "Yeah, but I've been down here before, and I know the way out." The Almighty wants you to be grounded in Him. He wants you to trust in Him. He wants you to believe in yourself too. And He wants you to do the work. And if He pulls you out of whatever you're going through, good or bad, and you feel like you can't find a way through the challenge or the change. Lean in on Him. Ask Him to show you what it is that's inside of you that you need to work on or let go of, or something that you need to change. And be on the lookout, because He will have someone walk past the hole that you're in that can help you. He never leaves us all alone. He always provides support. And so I hope that today's episode and episode 40 and Strength to Overcome overall has done that for a lot of you. Whether this is my sign-off or not, we don't know. But I've been blessed by Ryan. I've been blessed by Joe. This journey is so powerful within me that I think about it every day. And I hope that throughout this 40 episodes we've been able to help and encourage you to press on, and I hope that today's episode does that more than ever, because it has for me. It's not just for men, it's not just for women, it's for fathers, mothers, children, people that are really struggling. It's for all of you. But mostly, it's for the Creator who has put it on my heart to speak this episode and put it out there, and I hope that He puts it into the right ears and in front of those that need to hear. So I love you all. I appreciate the love, the support, the encouragement, the feedback. Episode 40 is done. I've got to figure out how to get it out there into the right places. But I hope that if you're listening to it, it means that it did. To the Almighty Creator who put me in this position to do this, I give thanks, I give glory, and through all the challenges that I'm going through right now, thank you for the gifts. And I look forward to what's next. Stay strong, everyone. Cheers.